There's something that very few Westerners get. Our pampered minds don't let us understand that not everything can be negotiated, and life is full of balance. And if we can't know the distinction between what can and what can't be negotiated, who you can reason with and who you can't reason with, you can get yourself into very dangerous water. Chief Rabbi of South Africa, Rabbi Goldstein, expresses this really beautiful in this video. Let's watch this together.
The US has slowed delivery of weapons, while the UK has banned some weapons sales altogether. When Israel assassinates terror leaders deal, the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, has pressured Israel to leave the Philadelphia corridor, which would allow Hamas to regroup and rearm and prepare for the next attack. This misguided approach reflects the West's naive belief that somehow everything can be solved by compromise. To be sure, there are situations that call for compromise. The Talmud says that when litigants appear in court, the highest goal is to reach a compromise between the two sides. The same can even apply in conflicts between nations, when clashing interests, territorial, economic, or otherwise, are involved. In such cases, compromise is always the preferred way. But when the battle is between good and evil, between light and darkness, compromise becomes an accommodation with evil, which is not only immoral, but also dangerous. In 1945, as the Allied forces neared victory in the war against Germany and Japan, both implacable ideological enemies, there was no question that the goal was unconditional surrender. Nazi Germany, with its genocidal Aryan ideology, and Japan, with its kamikaze suicide bombers, had to be completely defeated. There was no suggestion of a ceasefire or compromise. Asking Israel to negotiate a ceasefire with Hamas now, as it is winning the war, would be like telling the Allied forces in 1945 to stop short of victory and leave Hitler in power in a weakened Germany. Just as the total defeat of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan was necessary, so too must Hamas be defeated. The West is making a grave mistake by believing that, as Francis Fukuyama put it, civilization has reached the end of history, that all of the great ideological conflicts have been settled, and that liberal democracy has emerged victorious. History, with its civilizational battles between ideologies, continues, and in this fight there can be no accommodation or compromise with the evil ideology of jihad. It must be defeated. To seek a compromise solution between Israel and Hamas is to endorse evil. It is to do a deal with the devil.
Very powerful. It's to do a deal with the devil. We have to understand that there is a force of evil in the world, and you can't negotiate with evil. In fact, in our Hasidic teachings, we're taught that there are two types of negativity or evil in the world. There is pure evil, which cannot be worked with, and then there is evil, which is a mix of evil and good. When you're dealing with something which is a mixed bag, there is some negativity, which really every human being has, right? We can negotiate because there is goodness in that can be spoken to. But there actually are elements and entities in the world and people, tragically, who choose to become a full embodied expression of evil that you cannot negotiate with. Not because we, in principle, cannot negotiate with. They cannot negotiate. They've entrenched themselves in absolute negativity. And if we can't create the distinction between who we can negotiate with and who we can't negotiate with, we make a very, very, very grave error and we perpetuate evil. Because in negotiating with evil, what we're actually doing is giving it a lifeline. We're giving it exactly what it needs to continue. The negotiation itself is what feeds. That's why when Hamas continues doing what they're doing and they see the reaction that the world has, that reaction of so many people on the streets throughout the world actually are ennobling Hamas. It is giving a backbone to evil. We have to simply know when we realize I cannot negotiate with this person. The same way in a business meeting, we reach a point where we realize this person is non-negotiable, they're completely unreasonable. Say that's fine. You just walk away from the table. Now, some people act, unreasonable. When you walk away from the table, they come running back. That's a person who's not evil, so to speak. They're not really entirely unreasonable. However, what you and I may have never encountered in our lives is that there are people who actually are a death cult. We can't relate to it, but we have to know that it exists so we know to walk away from the negotiating table, never to negotiate with such a person. Only ultimatums work with such people.